Hello, this is Brad, or Brad Wild on explain.org, flying the JAR A320 from San Diego to Las Vegas, so that's KSAN to KLAS. And I've got the fuel truck here, and I'm just using the Airbus livery, so I need to figure out how much fuel we're going to need for our trip. So I go up to fuelplanner.com and select Airbus A320 from KSAN to KLAS. Click on the load sheet, and I'm interested in the amount of fuel I'm going to need for takeoff. So that's, and this is, by the way, this is in pounds, and it needs to be converted to kilograms, all weights in pounds. So I take this number here, and I'll just go ahead and go over to use the wonderful powers of Google. And it gives it to me here, so we're about 5,300 kilograms of fuel needed. So I can go back to here and I can pre-select 5.5, go ahead and fuel the airplane. There we go, and we'll have our fuel truck pull away. And we'll start some ground power. All right, we have external power. It's time to turn on our batteries. You can see here we have external power available. And we'll turn on some lights just to let people know on the ground that there's activity here. And then go ahead and start our APU. Wait for that to come up. All right, we have power. And we'll go ahead and begin aligning the ADARUs. So that switch to STS or status, system to 1. Turn these to nav. And as soon as we see an indication here in the window, we'll go ahead and press enter. And we have 7 minutes before we're ready for navigation. And now that the APUs are on, we need to turn on, whoops, better put on the APU bleed first. Now the backs. All right, I can turn off my ground power. Actually, right after the APUs come up, they should be turned off. So my bad. We can turn on our radio switch. And now it's time to program our FMGC, but we need to have a flight plan first. So I'm going to make a little room here, and then I'm going to pull up Flight Aware and put in a route and see if there isn't an actual commercial route we can use. And there's one here, southwest. I'm interested in this line here. I'm going to go ahead and decode it and place that off to the side here as I program my FMGC. So I have some views set for my FMGC. Makes it a little bit easier, but I'm not going to use my iPad for this. I'll just go ahead and click away. So we'll start with our init screen, and we're going from San Diego to Las Vegas. We'll go ahead and align our IRS, and I'm just going to put in an Airbus number here. And a cost index of 45, which is the mean. And we have fueled up. Now over to our flight plan. We're going to be taking off on runway 27, and we're going to be using the Pebble 6 departure. If you look over here at our route, and then our transition is going to be Catalina, and we'll go ahead and insert that. So you can see that it puts in Medley, Pebble, and then we're going to have to put in a few others. So we'll put in LAX manually. Whoops. And then let's see if we can't put in our destination. So we're going to be landing to the west, 25 right, and our star is going to be KPEC. And we'll use the DAG transition. So you can see now that things line up very well. I just run through them to make sure nothing's too bizarre. So it looks like we're good there. I'll go ahead and complete my performance over here. 18,000 feet for our transition. In the US, leave thrust reduction the same. Flaps and stabilizer, we'll go with the recommended 2.0. Whoops, wrong way. And our flex number is going to be F44. Go back to our init screen and let's put in a cruise altitude of, let's cruise at 28. It's a relatively short flight. So back to our performance, and this will be our approach screen. We will worry about that later. Back to our flight plan. You can see now we have altitudes. Let me go back to our starting point. And now we're ready to start the engines. So we'll make sure all our doors are closed. And we can close this. We're not going to need a tow. We're just going to be going forward. So let's get the seat belts on. And everybody can stop smoking now. Our emergency lights need to be armed. And we'll turn on our fuel pumps, all 6 of them. Our switch to ignition, and we can go
Starting
ahead.
Engine 1.
Very loud. And you can see them spooling up here. While that's happening, we can set our initial altitude of 5,000 feet. And we're going to use a speed of 178, which is based on our V-speed. And we'll go with, there we go. By the way, there's a difference. If you have to make sure that you get the little finger to press. That is pull, that is press. There is a difference. So we've got power now in that one engine. Start the second one.
Starting engine 2.
And it's coming up. By the way, you can see a bit of our flight plan if you can see our initial route there. But we want to fly with arc. And notice we got two really close together there. I could probably get rid of one if I wanted to. Alright, put our switch back to normal. Get a couple of notches of flaps.
Flaps 1. Flaps 2.
And arm the spoilers.
Spoilers arm.
And now we're ready to begin taxiing. Just turn on some more lights here. Our nose to taxi. We can put the runway turn off lights on. And now that the engines are started, we could turn off our APUs. So let's taxi.
Park brake off.
And I think I'll pause right now so that you don't have to go along for this slow ride to the end of the runway. All right, we want to make sure our range is where we want it set, and 20 miles is fine if we were doing a lot of maneuvering right after we take off. Strobes and landing lights. Really don't need these on anymore. And this can go to takeoff. All right, we're ready to roll. We will assume we're cleared for takeoff. You know, I am going to make this 10 miles. I can start my timer. So I have my hand on the G key for the gear and on the 3 key for the spoilers, or the 4 key. And we will apply power till we get our flex number. There we go.
Power set.
Now after I take off, I don't want to exceed 18 degrees or my autopilot will not work.
100 knots. V1, rotate.
So nice and steady.
Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up. Spoilers disarm. Autopilot 1, cross-check.
Notice I did not exceed 18 here. So we can turn off our lights. Now if I turn off my packs, I'd turn them on now. Notice that I have
Standard baro cross-check.
climb
Passing
indication.
Flight level 0, 2, 0.
And we can put up our flaps.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Notice we turn to 290 to avoid traffic from the naval base there. So we can now increase our speed to 220 and put up that other notch of flaps.
Speed checked. Flaps 0.
Now the plane levels off till we get to 220. Now we're climbing again, and again it'll be to 5,000. We've reached our speed and our altitude. So now we're just waiting for clearance. We'll assume we have it now. So I'll just dial this up to 20, flight level 28, flight level 280 to be exact. There we go. And I'll go ahead and punch this. Notice I'm getting the finger. So our speed is coming up to 250, which is the speed limit under 10,000. And now we begin our climb. And we're coming up on these two computed waypoints. Again, I could have gotten rid of one of these. San Diego off in the background. So the airplane is cleaned up. Spoilers disarmed. Flaps up. We can zoom out a bit. See our other waypoints. No reason to see these airports. Not much out there. So we begin two little turns here. And Medley will be our next waypoint, and we should be at flight level 181. Squirrely little turn because of that waypoint. It's probably a bug in the way that the JAR A320 figures that for the FMGC. So now that we're above 10,000 feet, I can turn off the landing lights. Notice our speed has come up considerably. Now it is possible to use your speed to slow the airplane down, which means it'll climb at a much higher rate. But I'm just going to go with JAR's recommendation here. Our top of climb is our top of climb is the Catalina VOR. Turn down my ambient sound here. And Southern California off in the distance. And we are coming up on Medley. We will not be at flight level 180. Auto throttle is on. Autopilot 1 is on. Climbing to flight level 280. At 18,000, I'll have to change this to standard. You'll see that start to flash on my display. And a slight turn after crossing Medley. You can see our top of climb here at Catalina, and at that point we turn to the northeast towards our destination. So we're flying quite a ways northwest to avoid traffic out of LAX. So we have our barrel flashing here. Looks like you pull to get the standard, so you want the whole hand open. And here's Catalina off in the distance, and that's where we will make our turn over Pebble now. We can just check where we should be at flight level 208. We're not quite there yet, but nothing to be concerned about at this point. So I'm going to get back to you when we get a little bit closer to our top of climb. So we're just 4 miles from our top of climb. We probably are not going to get to flight level 280 by that point. We are over Catalina. There's the Catalina airport just under the right engine, and we're about ready to begin our turn. And there we go. So we missed our top of climb, which I think is, in my experience, a little unusual. Maybe I should have dialed the speed down a little bit to have a little greater rate of climb. But no harm, no foul. So now we are coming up on our top of climb, and we should see the throttles begin to come back to idle. Right now it still says throttle climb. And we're now at altitude, our cruise altitude and our Mach speed. And we can let everybody walk around. And head back towards the coast of California. We'll be flying right over LAX. Again, Catalina below us. And the Palos Verdes Peninsula. Long Beach off the right wing. San Pedro, big shipping harbor. Back in a minute. So here we are flying over LAX at our cruise altitude. So there's a VOR on the field that we're going to turn over. See it coming up here. Sprawling LA underneath the wing. And now we begin another turn towards our destination, Las Vegas. San Gabriel Mountains just ahead of us surround LA. Get back to our flight path. Next waypoint is the VOR DAG. Delta Alpha Golf. And that's 100 nautical miles away. So once we get back on track here, we'll pause, and it looks like our top of descent is right over DAG. Take a look at our MCDU. Yes, right afterwards we make our descent, begin our descent into Las Vegas. So one more look off the nose, leaving the LA area. And headed towards the desert.